Hi everybody. Today we're talking about the idea of how young adults become caregivers. And if you are a young caregiver, what can you do? How can you manage? And when I say young caregiver, I really mean young caregiver. You could be in your teens or your 20s and your 30s and not really have a lot of life experience. So all of these things are coming at you and you don't really know what to do. A lot of complications can arise when your parents, who are supposed to be young and healthy, begin having health issues or suddenly become sick or lose a job or other life events happen, and you as a very young adult all of a sudden have to grow up quickly and become responsible. So I want to first talk about how this happens, and then I'll talk about suggestions. I'm Pamela D Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, a lot of hope, help, and support for caregivers of all ages, articles, my podcast, my library, a lot of videos here on my YouTube channel, if that's where you're watching this. So how do young caregivers become thrust into caregiving? Well, it could be the death of a parent that makes you then responsible for helping your mom or dad who survived with your brothers and sisters. Or let's say that one of your parent has a sickness, and so the other parent has to work, and maybe you don't have brothers or sisters, and you are helping mom or dad before you go to school or after school. You're doing hands-on care, you're house cleaning, you're going to get groceries. Also, there are issues when a parent may have lost a job due to substance abuse or mental illness, or they can't hold down a job, and you have one parent who's working and one parent who really can't do a lot, and so you become that caregiver. I know a lot of young caregivers who have to go out and get jobs because there's not enough money. There's not enough money to pay the rent, or you need groceries, or you're trying to pay for medications or medical care. So young caregivers really can have a lot of adult responsibilities. And it can be really hard as a young caregiver to watch all of your friends in school go off and do things and enjoy life, and your life really is work before school and work after school. So what can young caregivers do to try to balance all of these adult situations that they're thrust into with the emotions that you have every day, wishing that life really was a lot different than it is? So my first suggestion, and this really applies to all caregivers, look beyond the obvious. So when we're stuck in a situation, sometimes all we can see is right here. We can't see, what the future might hold, or what a week ahead or 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead might hold. And sometimes we can't even see like what's around. So it's kind of like you have this onion and you have all the peels on the onion, and you're peeling down the onion. What really is going on? It's hard to look at that when you feel so stressed every day, and it's easy to take situations at face value without asking a lot of questions. So that leads to the idea of working to improve your communication skills. A lot of young caregivers tell me that their communication skills are not good. A lot of this, for better or worse, is due to technology. Cell phones, texting, emails. We don't talk to people anymore. We don't know how to talk to people anymore. And so working on your communication skills is a way that difficult caregiving situations can get better if you start asking questions. Also, I don't know what your family life is like. If you have brothers or sisters, there may be squabbles about who's helping out and who's not doing this and who's not doing that. You may be arguing with your parents. As much as you possibly can, try to avoid the family squabbles by figuring out what's going on. If somebody's upset, why are they upset? If you're upset, why are you upset? What's going on that you might be able to solve to avoid those upsets? Because caregiving can be emotionally draining. It can be physically draining. You can fall in bed at night just, sometimes thinking, oh, I wish I didn't even have to get up tomorrow. I know many caregivers that do that. Another thing is to avoid assumptions about caregiving expectations. So realize that if your parents need your help today, it's probably because they didn't plan for this thing to happen, this unexpected event to happen. So you may be looking to your parents to give you advice or to know what to do. And if they have no experience in this type of situation, they may not have any advice. It's important to realize that we can only help ourselves, or other people can only help themselves to the degree that they have knowledge or experience about what's going on or in a certain area. So sometimes as a child, as a young adult, if you can seek out help, if you have grandparents, can you use them as a support system? Can you go to them to say, gosh, Grandma or Grandpa, what would you do about this? What's your experience with this? Have you had, has this happened to you? What did you do? How did you solve it? I'm having a really hard time. If you're in school, there may be counselors, there may be teachers. If you have older brothers and sisters who are moved out of the house, maybe who are 8, 10, 12 years older than you, what advice can they give you about the situation? If you are working with the healthcare system, doctors, doctor offices, hospitals, other providers, begin asking questions and asking for recommendations if your parents are not. People who feel sick sometimes don't have the energy to put into solving their problems or trying to figure out what's going on. They're just trying to get through the day not feeling horrible. And so you, as this young caregiver who feels good and has all of this energy, all of this is going to fall on you, which doesn't make it easier. Being a young caregiver can feel really overwhelming. Sometimes you might feel like your whole world is falling apart and that life isn't fair. I know I've been there. I've been a young caregiver. You have to be the one to seek out advice and counseling and information so that you can help yourself and your parents. There's a lot of other help on my website about the importance of not giving up a job if you have one, about managing family relationships, about setting caregiving boundaries. This information is in my articles. It's in my podcast. So visit my website. It's PamelaDWilson.com. I thank you all for being here. I am PamelaDWilson.com, a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Have a fabulous day today. I'll see you all again soon in another video, and stay hopeful. There is hope, there is help, there is support out there. You just have to find the right person, the right situation, and you can move forward.